It was a warm day, and a cool breeze slipped through the open window. The young woman lounged on her old couch, scrolling through an online store on her phone. A smile spread across her face. She'd just gotten her paycheck and wanted to buy something special for her small apartment, something to give it a unique vibe. Her fingers swiped across the screen, and her eyes lit up. There it was, an antique mirror with an intricately carved wooden frame and a glass that seemed to hold old secrets. The seller's description was short but tempting. Antique mirror feels like centuries past. No in-person pickup. She paused for a moment. No in-person pickup was a bit odd, but not enough to dampen her excitement. A few clicks, her address typed in, and done. The mirror was hers. She imagined hanging it above the small fireplace in her apartment, where the sunset light would hit the glass and make the room feel magical. A few days later, when the doorbell rang and she saw the large cardboard box, her heart raced with joy. The mirror was heavier than she expected. Its wooden frame was covered in detailed carvings, flowers that seemed to glow in the dark. When she pulled it out of the box, she caught a whiff of old wood and something like the scent of dried flowers. The glass was slightly cloudy, but she thought it only added to its charm. She carefully hung it on the wall and stepped back to admire her work. The afternoon light hit the glass, and its reflection had a strange depth, as if it showed more than just the room. That night, as she sprawled on the couch watching a show, her eyes drifted to the mirror. Something in the reflection caught her attention. For a split second, she thought she saw a shadow move, but when she turned her head, the room was empty. She told herself it was probably the TV's light. She laughed and muttered, "Too many horror movies." But when she glanced at the mirror again, something felt off. The reflection of the room seemed a little darker than the actual room. She shrugged and went to bed. A few nights later, that strange feeling came back, stronger this time. In the mirror's reflection, she saw a tall, stretched shadow near the couch. But when she looked at the couch, there was nothing. Her heart beat faster. She got up, turned on all the lights, and stared at the mirror. The reflection showed her hair messy, face now a bit worried. But behind her, in the corner of the mirror, there was a dark smudge that seemed to shift. She spun around, but the room was empty. "Maybe the glass is messed up," she said to herself, her voice shaky in the quiet apartment. She decided to check the mirror in the morning. Maybe it was dirty, or the light was playing tricks. That night, she couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt like someone was watching her. Finally, she jumped up, grabbed her phone, and started searching for info on antique mirrors. She found nothing but a few cheesy stories about cursed objects. She laughed, but it felt hollow. In the morning, when sunlight poured into the apartment, she felt better. She examined the mirror closely. No smudges or scratches on the glass. She touched the wooden frame, her fingers tracing the carvings. Under one of the flowers, she noticed a tiny mark, like a letter or symbol, but it was too small to read. She decided to message the seller to ask where the mirror came from. But when she went to the online store, the seller's profile was gone. No name, no address, not even a phone number. It was like they'd never existed. The next few nights, things got worse. The shadow in the mirror wasn't just a smudge anymore. It had the shape of a person, tall, thin, with hunched shoulders. Every time she looked at the mirror, the shadow was there, sometimes closer, sometimes farther. What made her heart race was that the shadow was never in the room, only in the mirror's reflection. One night, she gathered her courage and walked up to the mirror. Holding her breath, she stared into the glass. The shadow was right behind her, closer than ever. She slowly turned her head, but nothing was there. When she looked back at the mirror, the shadow was gone. "That's enough," she said to herself. She grabbed her phone and decided to record the mirror. If something was real, it would show up on video. She turned on the camera, pointed it at the mirror, and started recording. For a few minutes, She stood in front of it, sometimes glancing around, sometimes staring at the glass. She didn't see anything weird while recording, but when she played the video, her breath caught in her throat. In the video, she was standing in front of the mirror, but behind her, in the reflection, was someone else. Not a shadow, not a smudge, but a person with long black hair falling over their face. Their head was tilted, and they seemed to stare straight at the camera. She let out a short scream and dropped her phone. Her heart pounded. She played the video again, watching closely. In the moment when she looked around in the video, the figure in the mirror was still staring at the camera. It was like they weren't even seeing her, like they were looking right at whoever was watching. She didn't sleep that night. She kept all the lights on and curled up on the couch. Her mind was full of questions. Where did the mirror come from? Who was the seller? Why was their profile gone? She thought about the delivery. When the box arrived, it was plain, with no labels or info. She couldn't even remember which delivery company brought it. It was like the mirror came from nowhere. In the morning, with red eyes and a tired body, she made up her mind. The mirror had to go. She didn't want it in her house for another night. She got up, threw an old cloth over the mirror, and started unscrewing it from the wall. As she lowered it, the cloth slipped, and she caught a glimpse of her reflection. But what stopped her heart was the mist on the glass, like someone had breathed on it. And in the mist, words were written. She stumbled back, and the mirror slipped from her hands. It didn't break, but it made a loud thud. With trembling hands, she pulled the cloth back over it and pushed the mirror to a corner of the room. She didn't know what to do. She called a friend, and with a voice shaking from fear, told her everything. Her friend thought she was joking at first, but when she heard the panic, she promised to come over that day to help. When her friend arrived, they carried the mirror to the apartment's back courtyard. They decided to leave it in the recycling bin. When they pulled off the cloth, the glass looked cloudy again, but there were no words. Her friend laughed and said, "Maybe you're just tired and your mind's playing tricks." But she was sure what she'd seen was real. They left the mirror in the bin and went back to the apartment. She felt like a weight had lifted off her shoulders. That night, for the first time in a while, she slept peacefully. But the calm didn't last. In the middle of the night, she woke to a faint sound, like glass being scratched. The room was dark, with only dim moonlight coming through the window. Her heart raced. She got up and turned on the light. The sound stopped, but something felt different in the room. Her eyes landed on the wall above the fireplace, where the mirror used to hang. Now there was just a faint rectangle on the wall, a mark from the old paint that had been hidden under the mirror. But what froze her blood was a faint reflection that seemed to linger on the wall. It wasn't clear, not like a mirror, but like a shadow of glass that wasn't there anymore. She stepped closer and touched the rectangle. It was cold, much colder than the rest of the wall. She pulled back and whispered, "This can't be real." The next morning, she went to the courtyard to make sure the mirror was still in the bin. But the bin was empty. No mirror, not even a piece of the wooden frame. It was like it had never been there. She called the building manager, but they said the trash hadn't been picked up the night before. The IT. It was a warm day, and a soft breeze came through the half-open window, making the thin curtains dance. A young guy sat at a small desk in the corner of his room, a big smile on his face. He was excited, scrolling through his phone. After months of saving up and searching online, he'd finally found something amazing, a used laptop with great specs and a price that seemed too good to be true. The ad was on a lesser-known online store, with a short description and a photo showing a shiny, spotless laptop. The seller wrote, "Only used a few months, like new. Limited offer, His finger hesitated for a second, but the deal was too tempting. He clicked buy, paid, and leaned back in his chair, feeling like he'd won. He imagined using the laptop to speed up his projects, play his favorite games, and maybe even start a YouTube channel. The future looked bright. 3 days later, the doorbell rang. A plain box with no special labels sat at the door. He tore it open, heart racing. The laptop was exactly like the photo, sleek, shiny, not a single scratch. It even smelled new, like it had never been touched. He brought it to his room, set it on his desk, and pressed the power button. The screen lit up, and the system booted in seconds. The window setup was clean, like it had just been installed. No extra programs, no random files on the desktop. He felt like he'd scored the deal of a lifetime. That night, he started installing his software, video editors, a few games, and tools for his projects. He stayed up past midnight, browsing the web and testing the laptop's power. Everything worked perfectly. The next morning, while checking the hard drive for free space, he noticed a strange folder. Its name was just a random string of numbers, 927483110. Curiosity kicked in. Maybe it was a test file, or something the previous owner forgot to delete. He clicked it open. Inside were a few video files with nonsense names like xv_001.mp4 and QUE_087.mp4. He figured they might be default videos or ads. With a bit of hesitation, he double-clicked one. The video that played stopped his breath. It showed his room, the same room he was sitting in right now. The angle looked like it was filmed from the ceiling corner near the window, a spot where no camera existed. In the video, he saw himself wearing the blue shirt he had on yesterday, scrolling through his phone. His heart started pounding. He closed the video and looked up at the ceiling. Nothing. No camera. No lens. Not even a suspicious hole. Was this a prank? Had someone planted fake files to mess with him? Hand shaking, he opened the other videos. Each showed a different angle of his room. One from above his bed, one by the window, even one from under his desk, catching just his legs. In every video, it was him, doing normal stuff, eating, typing, even sleeping. The file dates showed some were recorded just days ago, after he'd bought the laptop. His head spun. How was this possible? The laptop didn't have a webcam, and even if it did, it couldn't film from impossible angles. He scanned the room, half expecting something to jump out from the walls. He tried to stay calm. Maybe he'd been hacked. He connected the laptop to the internet and started searching for info on malware and hacked cameras. He read article after article, but nothing explained how a non-existent camera could record him. While searching, he noticed one of the videos had updated. The new file was only a few seconds long, dated right now. Fear crawled up his spine, but he opened it. The screen showed him, at that exact moment, sitting behind the laptop, wearing the same gray shirt, staring at the screen. His breath caught. He yanked the internet cable from the modem, cutting the laptop off completely. Something was very, very wrong. But curiosity battled his fear. He went back to the folder. A new file had appeared, dated just seconds ago. The internet was off. How could this happen? With sweaty fingers, he clicked it. The video showed him again, behind the laptop, his face frozen in the same terror he felt now. The camera seemed to film from right in front of him, where only the laptop screen was. At the end, the screen went black, and a single sentence appeared in plain white text. "As long as you watch, we watch too." He slammed the laptop shut and backed away from the desk. His heart was racing so fast, it felt like it might burst. He looked around the room, at the ceiling, the corners, the window. Nothing seemed off, but he felt eyes on him, invisible and unblinking. The sunlight streaming through the window no longer felt warm. It was cold, threatening. That night, he called the police, his voice shaky as he explained everything. The officers thought it might be a joke or a misunderstanding at first, But when they took the laptop to the station and saw the files, their faces changed. A tech officer said the system was loaded with unknown malware and programs they'd never seen before. The code seemed to rewrite itself, and there was no trace of where it came from. The police kept the laptop for further investigation and warned him not to use any unknown devices for now. That night, he couldn't sleep. Every tiny sound in the house made him jump. He turned off his phone, unplugged his old laptop, and left the lights on. But the darkness outside the window felt alive, like something was lurking in it. He kept imagining that sentence appearing on his wall. "As long as you watch, we watch too." A few days later, the police called. They'd traced part of the malware, but the trail led to a dark, untraceable network online. The seller he'd bought the laptop from had no real-world trace. The address listed on the site was fake, and the bank account he'd paid into was emptied right after the transaction. Worse, the text said the malware was designed to collect data even without an internet connection and could somehow update itself. It was like the laptop was alive on its own. He stopped trusting any device. He threw out his old laptop, bought a new phone, and changed his Wi-Fi passwords. But the unease wouldn't leave. Sometimes his monitor's light seemed to flicker for a split second. Sometimes he heard faint static from his speakers, even when they were off. One night, while watching a YouTube video, the playback froze. And, for a moment, his own face appeared on the screen, like a webcam reflection. But he'd taped over his webcam with black tape weeks ago. He shut the laptop in panic and stared at the dark screen. Was that really his face, or something else? He decided to share his story on YouTube, not just to warn others, but to see if anyone out there had answers. He carefully made a video explaining everything. Buying the laptop, finding the videos, calling the police. He included blurry clips of the video files the police allowed him to share. When he uploaded the 15-minute video, he thought maybe a few people would watch and leave comments. But within hours, it went viral. Tens of thousands of views poured in, and the comment section exploded with wild theories. Some said it was a pro-hacking group selling rigged second-hand devices. Others thought the laptop was tied to an illegal surveillance network, maybe even government-run. A few went further, saying the device was haunted or connected to something beyond human understanding. One comment caught his eye. A nameless user with a blank profile wrote, "You didn't delete the files, did you? They're still watching." His heart raced again. He called the police and asked if they'd wiped the laptop's files. The tech hesitated, then said they'd tried, but the malware kept rebuilding itself. Even after formatting the drive, parts of the code reappeared. Worse, one tech said that when they powered the laptop in the lab, its webcam light turned on for a second. Except the laptop didn't even have a webcam in its hardware. Now, he doubted everything, even his own shadow. Every night before bed, he unplugged every device. He covered webcams with tape and turned mirrors to face the wall as if his own reflection could betray him. But the feeling of being watched never left. Sometimes he woke up at midnight, certain something was standing by his bed. One night, while editing a new YouTube video, he noticed a strange noise in his audio recording. Listening closely, he heard a faint whisper, words he couldn't make out, like they came from far away. He deleted the file and didn't dare turn on the camera that night. His YouTube videos were now getting hundreds of thousands of views. Fans begged him to dig deeper, to find new clues, even to check the dark web for the seller. But he was done chasing the truth. The more he searched, the deeper he sank into this nightmare. Then, one day, he got an anonymous email. No sender, just one line. Turn the laptop on. We're still waiting. Attached was a video file. He opened it, trembling. The screen was black, but a sound came through the same whisper from his audio. The words were unclear, but one sentence stood out. "We are always here." He told the police, but they said the email came from an untraceable server. He was now certain this wasn't just malware. It was something bigger, darker, Maybe a network. Maybe an entity. Maybe something he couldn't even imagine. His last YouTube video had a simple message. If something seems too good to be true, it might come with a price you can't see. Be careful. At the end, he turned the camera to the window, where the night's darkness swallowed everything. For a split second, a shadow seemed to move in the glass. Now, every night, he unplugs every outlet in the house. He locks his phone in a drawer and closes the curtains tight. But the feeling lingers something, or someone is watching him in the silence. And deep in his mind, that final sentence loops endlessly. As long as you watch, we watch too. 3 months ago, on a bright and exciting day, my life took a weird turn. I've always loved video games. Ever since I was a kid, I'd spend hours lost in pixelated worlds. One day, I found a used gaming console on an online marketplace. The price was amazing, and the seller said they were moving and needed to sell it fast. They posted a few pictures. The console looked shiny, the controllers were spotless, and it even came with its original box. I messaged them, haggled a bit, and a few days later, the package arrived. When I opened the box, it felt like I'd hit the jackpot. The console gleamed like it was brand new, but something was off. When the console loaded, there was already an account saved on it. The username was simple, but kind of creepy. Don't log out. I laughed at first, thinking the previous owner was just lazy and forgot to delete it. Curiosity got the better of me, so I decided to check it out. The account had no password, so I logged in easily. In the main menu, there was only one game installed. It had no name, just a gray icon with a dark house in the middle. Without thinking too much, I started the game. The screen went black. After a few seconds of silence, a dim, foggy image appeared. It was a house, dark and quiet, with moonlight streaming through big windows. The graphics were simple, almost like old games from the 90s, but they felt strangely real. My character was standing in a narrow hallway. I moved the joystick and started exploring. The hallway had a wooden door and a small table against the wall with a vase on it. I froze for a second. This looked way too familiar. It was like my house. My heart beat a little faster. I live in an old apartment with creaky wooden floors and narrow hallways. The table in the hallway was exactly like the one where I keep my keys and wallet. Even the vase was the same one I'd bought at a flea market a few months ago. I told myself it was probably a coincidence. Lots of houses look similar, right? I kept going. I opened the next door and entered a kitchen. The sink with a rusty faucet, the faded cabinets, even a red teapot on the counter. It was my kitchen, down to every detail. This wasn't just a coincidence anymore. The game had no music, just ambient sounds, creaking floorboards, wind whistling through windows, and the occasional drip of water from the faucet. I felt uneasy, like someone was watching me from behind the screen. I explored for a few minutes, but there were no enemies, no missions, no goals, just the house, empty and silent. Suddenly, the screen started flickering. The image glitched, and the game crashed. The console shut off by itself. I pressed the power button a few times, but nothing happened. It was like the console was dead. Frustrated, I decided to try again tomorrow and went to bed. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the game. Why was my house in a random used game? Maybe the previous owner was a programmer and this was a personal project? But how did they know my house? I've never posted pictures of my place online, not even on social media. The next morning I rushed to plug the console back in. This time it turned on without a hitch. I opened the game and a new level loaded. This level was in a bedroom, the bed with a blue blanket, the wooden dresser with loose handles, even the gray curtains I'd bought a few months ago. Everything was there. My heart was pounding. I started exploring. I opened a dresser, and the clothes inside were exactly the same as the ones in my real dresser. Even an old t-shirt I'd stuffed in the corner was there. I was freaking out. Then a sound came from the game. A door creaking open, the same creak my real doors make. At the same time, I thought I heard a creak from the hallway in my actual house. I froze. I turned around, but nothing was there. The door was closed. I shut off the console and didn't touch it for days. But curiosity was eating me alive. A few nights later, when it was dark outside, I turned the console back on. The game skipped straight to a new level. This one was in the basement. My real basement is a dark, damp place I never use, full of dusty boxes and old junk. In the game, my character held a flashlight that flickered on and off. I started exploring. The moldy walls, the cardboard boxes covered in dust, even an old bike I had in the corner. Everything was there. Suddenly, the flashlight went out and the screen went black. A heavy, slow breathing sound came from the game, like someone was right next to me. At the same time, I felt a cold breeze on the back of my neck. I turned around, but there was nothing, just the darkness of my house. I was scared now. I decided to take the disc out and throw it away, but when I opened the console's disk drive, the disc was gone. I thought it might be stuck, but I searched and found nothing. I turned the console back on, and even without a disc, the game still ran. This time, my character was in a long hallway that seemed to go on forever. The walls were covered in blurry old photos. I tried to look at them, but the closer I got, the blurrier they became, like they didn't want to be seen. The farther I went, the darker the hallway got. Then a sound came from the game. A soft whisper. I couldn't make out the words, but it felt like they were saying something about me, like they knew my name. That night, I unplugged the console and threw it in a closet. I told myself I was done with it. But after that night, weird things started happening in my house. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, I'd hear creaking floorboards, like someone was walking. One morning, I woke up to find the basement door open, even though I was sure I'd locked it. One night, I felt like someone was watching me from behind my bedroom window. I ran to check, but when I pulled back the curtain, there was nothing but darkness. For weeks, I tried to convince myself it was all in my head. Maybe I was tired, or maybe I'd played too many games and my brain was messing with me. But one night, curiosity got the better of me again. I pulled the console out of the closet, plugged it in, and turned it on. The game went straight to a new level. My character was standing at the front door of the house. The door slowly opened, and the camera zoomed in on a dark figure standing in the hallway. Its face was hidden, but it had two glowing white eyes that seemed to stare right at me. Then, a loud knocking sound came from the game, 3 hard knocks. But it wasn't just in the game. I heard it in my real house, too. My heart was racing. I turned off the console and ran to the front door with shaking hands. I unlocked it and yanked it open. No one was there, just a cold wind and the smell of damp earth. I haven't turned the console on since, but something feels different in my house now. Every night when I go to bed, I feel like someone's watching me from the dark. Sometimes I hear soft whispers coming from the basement, too quiet to understand. Yesterday, while doing laundry, I found a crumpled piece of paper in my pants pocket. Scrawled on it in messy handwriting was, "Don't log out." I don't know where this console came from or why my house was in its game. I don't know who that dark figure was or why I feel like it's still here. But I know one thing. If I turn the console on again, whatever was in the game might come for me in real life. A few days ago, I decided to sell the console. I posted an ad on the same website using the same description the original seller had written. I even listed it for the same price. Someone messaged me yesterday saying they wanted to buy it. When they asked why I was selling it so cheap, I just said, "I'm moving." We arranged for them to pick it up today. But last night, while packing my stuff, I noticed the console was gone. It wasn't in the closet under the bed, or anywhere else. All I found was another piece of paper, this time on the kitchen counter. It said, "The game isn't over." Now, every night I'd lock the basement door before bed. But I know it won't help, because every time I close my eyes, I feel that dark figure getting closer from the hallway. And worst of all, I'm scared that if I ever find the console again, I won't be able to stop myself from turning it on.